So it is off, away and racing for the latest edition of Festival Focus, a show in which we will give you zero apologies for not dwelling on either Constitution Hill or Facile Vega, both of whom, I will note, remain unchanged in the markets after easy wins this week. So we will launch straight in with David and my own selection of eye catchers from the last 7 days. David Mullins, you said you were looking forward to seeing what a horse called El Fabiolo could do. We got a sighting of him last Wednesday, the 21st of December at Fairyhouse, and now we know why you were looking forward to him, I think it's fair to say. Did this not perfect display because there was a mistake at the fourth, there was a little niggle 2 out, but did that give you enough optimism to think he can be at least competitive against the likes of John Bon and Appreciate It, given the bookies now have him at 5-1 for the Arkle?
No, I thought it wasn't good enough for me. I think the jumping was a bit too erratic. He looked like he could jump, but he didn't put it together. Maybe he'll come on, and I'd like to see him again before I touch him for an Arkle, definitely. Interesting.
Well, what about then, stick with the Arkle theme, because a horse who's getting an increasingly big profile is Sanois, who ran on Monday at Leopardstown. And maybe, just maybe now, the likes of John Bon, the likes of perhaps El Fabiolo could, down the tracks, bump into this fella, because we know that Sanois got chinned by Fidor, no disgrace, at Navan first time out, but now he's improved considerably to win a Grade 1 on Stephen's Day at Leopardstown. If you think that this lad, don't forget, 2020, I know it's a long time ago, but he's the winner of a county hurdle. 12 months ago, less than, he ran very well at 33-1 to be fourth behind Honeysuckle in the champion hurdle. And now all of a sudden, he's a Grade 1 winner over fences. I personally really like the way he went about his job and quickened up. What did you think, David Mullins? Because the bookies, at least, would like you to believe he's a 16-1 shot and value as such for the Arkle.
No, I wasn't too impressed either. I thought Fieldor made mistakes, and it ended up cutting up the race as it normally does in Leopardstown. It happened with Franco de Port a few years ago as well. I can't see this horse winning an Arkle. I think it all just worked out for him. Mark Walsh dropped in, gave him a good ride, and he's a couple of years more seasoned racing than the likes of Fieldor, maybe Visionarian as well. I think he might have a season more than him too. So I just think that counted on the day, and I don't think that's going to be enough for an Arkle.
All right, let's switch topics and let's go from novices to an old hand, because Kempton Park on Monday had loads of thrills and spills, but in particular in the transferred long walk hurdle, which of course we lost to the weather pre-Christmas, we had Paisley Park. Now they say that time waits for absolutely no man, but later this week, old Paisley Park will be 11, and yet he looked as good as new, and he's now won 11 times in his career. Based on that display, could those old legs, those creaking, soon-to-be 11-year-old legs, have enough zest to still be competitive in a Stayers Hurdle, a race which, don't forget, he won in 2019, and he's been third in the last 2 runnings? What do we make of old Paisley Park at 14-1 for a repeat in the Stayers Hurdle? Yes or no?
Possibly, yeah. I thought it was great to see him winning. He's one of those horses everyone likes to see winning. I thought he was good. I thought Aidan Coleman gave him a great ride. Florian Porter was beat the other day. You know, things are. It's always an open race, and 14-1. Yeah, why not have a few quid on him each way? But you just think he could be vulnerable at the age in March.
Well, I'm inclined to agree with you, and the reason for that is because there is undisputedly a new kid on the block, and there is just something irresistible about the rising tide of youth and improvement and younger legs. And are those younger legs a horse called Home by the Lee, who won at Leopardstown on Wednesday? Because fast forward 2 days on from Paisley Park at Kempton, this lad is 3 years younger. And I think it's fair to say he's been transformed by his transition to graded staying hurdles. You think to yourself that Joseph O'Brien suddenly might have one that could go right to the very, very top. First of all, do you agree with the bookies who, you've just said it's an open race, they'd have you believe he's the right price at 6-1 and just about favourite for the stayers off the back of his win at Leopardstown?
Yeah, he's an improving horse. He's done it well the last twice, and he showed in Leopardstown it wasn't any fluke, you know, in Navan. So I just don't know. Navan and Leopardstown are big galloping tracks. It wasn't a huge field both days. I think in Cheltenham, that horse could be vulnerable as well to a proper contested race with maybe there could be 15 or 20 runners with it being so open looking now at this stage.
Well, David, let me just challenge you there, because let's not forget that as a younger horse 9 months ago, as we speak now, he was 33-1 and 6th, more than respectable in the stayers. And he's been second on a very testing track like Gorham Park behind Royal Kahala in the Galmoy. So he's not a one-trick pony, this lad.
No, definitely not a one-trick pony, but I just listening to JJ's interviews after riding him. He was keen to get it across that this horse he needs room and needs light. He gave him 2 belts behind the saddle with a lap to go in Navan, and that they didn't work either. He pulled them out, and when he pulled them out, the horse got going. It just has to be a worry around Cheltenham. As
somebody who's ridden at the very highest level, let me ask you this, put it another way. Is there sometimes an advantage in a horse who can race lazily, i.e., are they the thinkers who keep a bit back for themselves and when push comes to shove might have a bit more under the bonnet, or are they actually lazy dossers who you want to avoid? Which way do you play that? Because there's absolutely no question this lad can perhaps be a bit of a monkey and race lazily mid-race. Is that a good or a bad thing?
It can work for and against you. You'd often feel if you got to the turn in Cheltenham with being close enough, if your horse is going to stay the whole way to the line, it's brilliant. It's way better than a horse travelling in there doing half speeds and cartwheels. They're normally the ones that don't get to the top. But you know, you can be too far out of your ground, especially around Cheltenham. It's a tight track. You're not gifted with room and light and everything that this horse might need. So it's hard to say. It can work too, and it can work for and against you.
Well, no apologies really for zigzagging between Fairyhouse, Kempton, Leopardstown, and so forth, because we've tackled the Arkle, we've tackled the Stayers Hurdle. Now it's time to talk Gold Cup, because of course at Kempton Park on Monday, call it what you will, call it Boxing Day, call it St. Stephen's Day, but certainly call it King George Day and call it Bravemansgame Day, because Paul Nicholls, with his brilliant record in that race, has won it again. And this Bravemansgame, you think he's now 6 from 7 over fences, 3 times he's won in Grade 1 company, and he, let's be honest, had the measure of L'Empresse, who's a very good horse before that rival unseated at the last. Think back, we didn't get to see him in Cheltenham last March. This time around, he's between 7 and 10-1, depending on where you shop around for the big one, for the Gold Cup. The way I'll frame this, David Mullins, is to say, is that a realistic notion? Or is this the sort of exuberant speed horse who actually might be better off on a really testing, challenging track like Cheltenham, going for the shorter Ryanair, for which you can back him anything between 4 and 8-1, based upon what you've seen and learned about him? Would you want to be riding him in a Gold Cup or in a Ryanair?
I think I'd like to be riding him in a Ryanair, definitely. I can't see him getting up the hill in Cheltenham 3 mile 2. He jumps and travels so well. It's probably the reason he doesn't get it, because he does everything so easy. He's a beautiful horse to watch. Is he going to get up the hill? I can't see it anyway in a Gold Cup. Maybe over 2.5.
I mean, to his credit, he was being niggled from a very long way out at Kempton, and he did nothing but produce and find and give. He's very likeable, but Ryanair, your version of events there. What about a horse who, well, again, it could be Ryanair, it could be Gold Cup, but on the other side of the pond, Conflated in the Savills chase at Leopardstown on Wednesday, a horse we know who loves Leopardstown, proven operator. It's so often the case that the top-rated horse wins the elite races. And that was the case again. Stylish performance this to see off your old mate, Kemboy, by 5 lengths. Bookies will tell you 12-1 is the right price. But where does that put him? Is he a Gold Cup horse, Conflated?
Yeah, he proved he was good the other day. He jumped well. That was a bit of a doubt. Maybe staying was as well, but he got a bit of a freebie. It's a difficult one to weigh up. You know, Kemboy was running it for the 4th time and he was 2nd. Is it Gold Cup for him? No. Did he do it well, and could he have done any more? No. So you know, he's done everything that was asked of him. He's got 3 Mile well, but he did get a bit of a freebie, and it wasn't much of a race to watch for me anyway. I didn't think he ever looked in trouble, or anything was ever going to catch him from turning down the back the second time.
Well, I guess everybody who backed him at 2-1 on the day would say, who cares? But same question about Bravemansgame. If you're given the option, if you came out of retirement tomorrow and connections came to you and said, David, listen, we will run this horse either in the Gold Cup or in the Ryanair. That's the race he ran in 12 months ago. He's 12-1 for both of them. Would you prefer to go further or shorter on Conflated?
I'd be dodging Galloping the Champ. That's what I'd be doing. I'd probably be going shorter, definitely.
So 6 down, 1 to go, David Mullins, as we span the first 3 days of Leopardstown. We span Kempton and a little bit of Fairyhouse pre-Christmas. The 7th name on the Christmas list, Gentlemansgame. Good to see, as ever, your old pal Mouse Morris with another good one on his hands. Now, you two have got some great history together, but he might have a great future here with this Gentlemansgame, who in the beginner's chase jumped like an old pro. From the front, Darragh O'Keefe looked super confident and he led him a merry dance. And also bear in mind, his point-to-point form now looks pretty clever as well, because way back in October 2020, this lad won at Curramore, beating one of Henderson's, Balco Coastal, who won at Kempton on Monday. Bookies off the back of this would love you to believe that Gentlemansgame is about the right price, either 14-1 for the longer National Hunt Chase or 16-1 for the Brown Advisory. Did you like what you saw from Gentlemansgame?
I thought Gentlemansgame was very good, yeah. Jumped great. He put cheap pieces on him, which I found a bit strange, but Mouse, he can do odd things like that. I don't know why he done it. If I remember correctly, I think this horse ran in the Dublin Racing Festival. It could have been 2021, and I think he wore a hood maybe, or he was keen, or he ran too free or something. So I think he has plenty of gears there to travel around Cheltenham. I don't know which race I'd rather see him in, but I know if you're on the fence, whether you're trying to find out if he has enough of a rating, or if you just haven't been impressed by him, be guaranteed Mouse Morris is going to find an extra half a stone going to Cheltenham. He finds it in Cheltenham, Liverpool, all the big festivals in the spring. I think this is probably one for Mouse Morris this year.
Well, I hope so, because he's a great old character, the Mouse. He's been around forever and he's still churning them out. Once upon a time, you and he had a minor success together in the northwest of England. Some party that night?
Yeah. So that's, as I said, that horse was a maiden winning the national. So Mouse can get them to improve, and he's a great man for those sort of horses. So maybe if Cheltenham doesn't work out, but I think it will, keep him on the short list for a few of those Irish nationals maybe, or Grand Nationals.
Now then, it's about this time of the broadcast every week on Festival Focus that certain people, and we won't name them, but you know who you are, and I know you're listening, start moaning, saying, well, you've left out such and such a name. She Wears It Well, Stateman, Gaillard Dumenil haven't been forgotten. They will be in next week's show. Mark our words. We already have them on the list, but there is only so much room for us to cover in any one individual show. So that about covers it for this week. And David Mullins, we've talked El Fabiolo, we've talked Sanois, Paisley Park, Home by the Lee, Bravemansgame, Conflated, and Gentlemansgame. You're a tough man to please on this occasion. Performance of the week from those 7 runners would be?
Gentlemansgame for me.
All good, and for the reasons given momentarily. Good stuff, that's it. And the trio of missing names will be covered right here, same time, same place next week. See you then.